Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. David King. I appreciate each and every one of you attending tonight, but I guarantee you next week, I bet the room is full. Before the night is over, I'm going to teach you about relationships. I'm going to teach you about fragility and handling things with care so that you, as an individual, can start to begin to realize your full potential towards your dream and building your business within the SFI network. I absolutely intend to get out to you tonight information that you've been needing, that you will desire, and you will want. So hang on to your seats and get ready because we're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. The first thing we're going to talk about is successful thinking. You know, let me ask each of you a question. Do you engage in procrastination? Or do you just self-sabotage, have self-sabotaging behavior? I think we all do from time to time. And what's interesting is that this limiting behavior can be traced all the way back to the day when you were born. That's right. Did you know that we are born with millions of little neurons running around that don't know what to do? And all a neuron is a cell that, in combination with the transmitters, processes it and transmits information to your body and your mind. When we're born, we have millions of these little guys just waiting for a job. Now, it's amazing when you got them standing in line. Now, you got to agree. And our environment is responsible for assigning those jobs. So, as we learn to respond to pleasant things in life, like music and touch, these neurons are programmed. The downside is that as we are exposed to negativity in our environment, neurons are programmed to send negative messages to our brain and body. And those messages create our limited beliefs that we often carry with us all the way until we're full grown into adulthood. You don't have to come from an abusive childhood to experience that type of programming. Innoxious comments from parents and teachers, playmates, and others are often translated into negative beliefs. And they can hinder our ability to achieve and enjoy life to its fullest, especially the things that are important to us. Now, we hold tight to the programming and carry it into everything we do, including our business. For example, I've heard brilliant business owners make comments like, "I'm not smart enough, or I would have to work too hard to become successful." I've even heard hardworking, intelligent, and people with great ethics, ethical individuals, say that they don't deserve success. And all of those beliefs come from life experiences upon which we build a pyramid of negative and limiting beliefs. Now, that's where self-sabotage begins. If we believe at a conscious or subconscious level that we don't deserve to succeed or we don't have what it takes, the subconscious mind will do everything within its power to help support that limiting belief. Because, as we talked about in an earlier seminar, 5% of our mind is based upon the actual functions that we perform. 95% of our mind is based upon the subconscious and a filing system that files away all of those experiences, all of those different negative and positive touch, feel, thoughts, and things that go along. I guess what I would have to say to you, and really be sincere about it, is if we believe at that conscious and subconscious level that we don't deserve to succeed or we don't have what it takes, then our mind's going to tell us that it's not within our power. And it will turn around and help support what we believe. Now, does that mean that we can't eradicate this programming? Absolutely not. The first step is to be able to recognize that self-sabotaging behavior. Sometimes that's enough to create a change. But oftentimes, We need help from a mentor, a coach, somebody we trust, somebody that has a, a professional environment that they deal with people to help them to create positive mindsets and to get rid of the negatives in their life. But when you're exploring your beliefs, procrastination is a sure sign of self sabotage brought on by your limited beliefs. Do you find yourself putting off activities that could contribute to the growth of your business, such as going and watching TV rather than writing up an ad or sending out emails? Well, when you ask yourself that question, you may immediately come to your own defense by saying something along the lines of, but I don't have time to make those sales calls. It's just me. Or I'm too tired at the end of the day to go in and do that. Or any number of excuses that we could come up with as to why we weren't serving our business. Well, I assure you, if you believe in yourself and you desire success at the subconscious level, you would put all your creative thinking to use and find a way to make the time. You know, during the exploration process, some other significant questions to ask yourself are this: what are the potential negative consequences of achieving success? Who would I have to please if I became successful? How would I change if I achieved success and wealth? What would I lose? What else would change? And what are things I would have to do to succeed? And how do I feel about doing them? You know, in a recent article that I was reading, uh, they were discussing the power of actually doing mind mapping for your business planning. And, you know, trying to put that same process to use to you gotta map your mind. You've gotta, as in taking a journey from point A to point B, or from England to California. You've got to have a plan. You've got to have a roadmap. You've got to know what flight you're going to catch if you're going by plane, or what boat leaves what dock at what time. You've got to know how you're going to get over land once you arrive. You've got to know what routes you're going to take. And try putting that same process to use to explore your limiting beliefs and fears around growing your business. It can be a powerful experience. Trust me, folks, it really can. You know, and remember, everyone, absolutely everyone, I exclude no one, experiences the pulls of nagging and limited thoughts. I can't spit it out tonight. I don't know what's wrong with me, but bear with me. We'll get through it if y'all will bear with me. You know, what sets people apart is the ability to transform those thoughts to beliefs that support them in their growth. We all have the ability. The first step is to recognize that you're holding yourself back and to decide that it's time to change. Trust me, you can do it. Remember what I told you. I can, I will, and I must win. How have you overcome self-proclaimed limitations? Think about that and kind of jot some notes to yourself. And what tools and methods and support system works best for you? Because what might work for me might not work for you. What might work for Rita or Lyle or Bingabaldo might not work for you. So when we stop and think about those things, we want to talk about uh, how people that have overcome their negative atmosphere become what I like to refer to as whole mind thinkers. They think with their whole mind, and they win by programming their mind not to have those thoughts. You know, an entrepreneur's problem uh, is, you know, to solve or seek the next steps to grow their company. they tend to toss ideas around in their mind all the time. I know when I'm going down the road, or Lyle and I have talked during the week, uh, we think about things that we can do to improve our business. We think about different ways to advertise, different ways to promote our sales. Uh, when you have those spare moments and you're just riding along, that's a quiet time for your mind to be able to really think things out. So I know I toss ideas around in my mind, and I'm always waiting for that magic solution or next brilliant idea. And I never give up on the fact that no doubt it's going to come, but I never ever thought of it like somebody told me the other day. They say, I have no doubt it'll come to you, Dr. King, but then what? Well, most entrepreneurs will come up with more than one great idea, and they merge in the brain to confuse, overwhelm, and produce frustration. Because one idea will overlap another, and pretty soon you're all confused. So, what I do, and what you should do, is make a list of your ideas, and that's a good way to get them out of your mind. It doesn't offer much opportunity for exploration and expansion of your concept, but what it does do is it puts it on paper to where you could go back and refer back to it. Now, how can we take our ideas and goals and problem solving to the next level? Well, let's talk about that. We live in the information age, and it's given away to a whole new world where, if you would, so to speak, right brain thinkers and whole minded thinking people are the power weapons necessary to create success. People and companies are recreating themselves, folks, learning to think differently, becoming more creative in their approach to their marketing. They're becoming more empathetic than we've ever seen. And above all else, they're becoming more purpose driven. I witness this daily as I work in the pharmaceutical field, going to the hospitals with the amazing people that I'm around, and most of who have a greater purpose for running a successful business. A purpose that really takes them beyond their profits to the health of people, to the wellness, to helping people to regain their physical stature. Well, what I did is I went through what I call a mind mapping course. And it gave me an opportunity to engage my right brain thinking. It's a creative process that it's easy for the brain to follow and to expand upon and to remember. For me, the key to it was asking the next question, drilling it down, and then drilling down some more. Now, if you wish to consolidate information, create a process. Think through a complex thought or brainstorm an idea. Try this process. You can get as creative as you like or keep it simple. There are computer programs you can utilize, or you can use a whiteboard or a poster board or a large piece of paper. I really like using the paper because using my own hands to draw and write seems to pull more creativity out of me. But what I suggest you do is begin with your main topic, whatever that may be. And for the sake of the discussion this evening, let's say that you're creating a process to release a new product, if you would. So in the center of that paper, you want to write the word product release. And then ask yourself questions like, what do I need to have in place to launch? Draw a line from your center topic for each thought that comes to mind. If the thoughts are linked, create a tree branch-like effect and continue creating. Write down all of your thoughts, and one will lead to another as the process continues. Now, you might consider using different colors for various lines of thought. I do that a lot. Like if this links to this, that links to another section, I might use a green line. And if this links to one other thing and back over to another thing, I may use a different color so I can tell the process flow. But however you would want to get to that, you know, write down all your thoughts. One will lead to another in the process, and you might consider that getting creative, have fun with it, be amazed at what surfaces, drill down, keep asking yourself questions like, what do I need to have in place to do this? Consider your resources and create a branch for all of those as well, because they're all going to link into the whole plan. Now, as challenges arise, they may merit another mind map, or you might resolve them after drifting down with a few more questions. There's no rules here. Let your whole brain guide you to the answers. And that's one of the main things that you can do to assist yourself. Now, when we start to mind map and we start to think about this, the first word that comes to mind is relationships. That's what comes to my mind. Business relationships, or relationships of how our dream equates to that which we're doing, and the things that all go into completing the steps towards reaching our ultimate goal of success. But one thing I'd like to talk to you about tonight that's really important to you: business relationships. Most of you don't know me that well, but I created a major group, and for 2 years we built our whole thrust was relationships: business, personal, associative, acquaintances, and we worked and looked at the relationship environment. And what I found out was that even with the best products and the best practices, the most ethical ways of looking at things, and the most moralistic mission statements and ideas, that the one thing that you still needed was strong relationships to succeed when you started to market. Now, I'm going to give you a roadmap to personality differences tonight into positive business results. So listen closely. The key element of this whole thing is respect is the heart of building business relationships. Without respect, you don't have anything. It's the glue that holds together the functioning of a team, of a partnership, and to manage relationships up and down, peer to peer, internally and externally as we go forward. Now, respecting the right to differ is a concept like apple pie and motherhood. You have a right to differ. We all agree with it, but can we truly foster it? You see, a lot of times what happens is if we pass out an idea and it's not well accepted, then, and somebody offers a different opinion, then our first knee jerk or reaction is to take and step back from it because it's not our idea. And as in most cases, we will look at it, and the first thing we'll want to do is tear it apart and find out how it relates to us, how it relates to our idea or whatever. And if we don't find it does, then we lose our respect for the fact that it's different. Or remember this: the first thing you should do when you hear a different idea that doesn't meet with your goal is to identify the specific areas of that different idea. And many people see things in terms of rights or wrongs. My way is right, and therefore the other ways are wrong. That's a general philosophy. Well, if you sit back and think about it a minute, when a situation is viewed through this lens, what always happens? You get into a power struggle, and it always ensues. But let me say something else to you. However, if a situation can be seen through the lens of difference, and a position is simply a matter of opinion, not fact, right? Then cooperation and compromise will always be possible for you. And let me repeat that. When a situation can be seen through the lens of difference. Got that? And a position is simply a matter of opinion, not fact. Any position's a matter of opinion. My opinion, your opinion, whoever's opinion that offers that position, but not fact. Then cooperation and compromise will always be possible. So identifying and understanding differences allows people to shift their position to one of compromise or negotiation. And the way I go about that, here are a few steps to roadmap that out to success. You've got to always respect leads to accepting a person for what he or she is. In other words, but what I'm really saying there is you've got to respect everybody you encounter and listen to what they have to say, because it's only a position, not a fact. And you may garner positive input that will fit a small piece of the larger picture in such a way as to help to complete a whole. And there's something we need to learn to do. We need to learn to accept people where they are and create an environment of trust. You know, trust leads to a willingness to be open to new opportunities, new collaborations, new strategies, new ideas, new products. Trust is one of those core values, along with respect, that we have to have in order to succeed. So once you understand what I've told you, you can use that list to avoid power struggles which drain your energy from your effectiveness. And I'm kind of going to run through these quick. I thought about 10 types of differences that you always want to look for when you're dealing and trying to create respect and trust. There are actually more, but the first 10 that came to mind I wrote down, and I thought about them. Number one, not all of us are the same in how we communicate. Everybody has a different communication style. You know, all people don't communicate in the same fashion. There are many, inventories available to identify different styles. You can go on the internet and find the A personality, the B personality, C personality, what those entail and what it does. But once you understand a person's style, that kind of knowledge can help to lead to respect and not conflict of that person. And that kind of clears up an environment of trust and respect. There's another thing you should always be aware of to go along with communication. As you see me come forward and you see me go to emphasize a point, or you hear me elevate my voice or lower my voice, then we must always be constantly aware of that nonverbal communication. You see, communication is a style that's outgoing. But the nonverbal communication is a subtlety, and all forms of that communication have got to be considered. You know, nonverbal communications are more covert, but not any less important. Remember that. Nonverbal communications include how you speak to somebody, the tone, your body language, like whether it's emphatic or whether it's slouched or whether it's crossed arms, whatever it might be. And nonverbal communications, well, they may differ from the verbal. With the additional understanding of what is really being communicated, more effective collaboration is always going to be possible for you. You have to understand there. We've covered communication, so not only do we hear and see, we find out that what is not spoken is equally as great as what is being spoken and how it's being emphasized or shared. And the third thing I thought about, because I taught school, and if y'all will forgive me, let me grab a little drink of this half warm coffee. Oh, yeah. Is everybody has a different learning style. You know, people learn in different ways. And when you take a look at the concept in the forefront of understanding, then communications can be geared to various styles. And you'll always meet with greater success because you've looked at the communication, you're looking at the nonverbal communication, that which is unspoken, and then you learn about that person's style. You know, I've seen guys that I looked at that I didn't think, and I'm sure you have too, a man or a woman. I thought, what do I have in common with that person? They live totally a different style than me. And then I would open my mind and I would take time to interact with that person. I would watch how they talk to me. I would watch their body language. I would listen to what they had to say. And when I did that, I found that from the most uneducated individual to the highest educated individual, that each one had their own style. And they always had something of profit to offer, whether it was the simplest of things from the person that lacked those many varied uh, abilities of education. And I found that even the simplest of people could give you a great idea, and it made collaboration possible. It made it, you know, how would I want to say that? When you can understand that concept in the forefront, it's the forefront of understanding communications, can and it can be geared to various styles, and it'll also meet with success. And the one thing that different values have now, everybody has differing values. Would you agree? Everybody has a different value. Now, I thought about that too, and I couldn't decide whether to really talk about that, but I'm going to anyway. Differing values, that kind of concept's a little bit tricky. While values need to be identified and respected, there are times when conflicting values can be so different that they cannot coexist on the same team. You know, when mutually exclusive values are encountered, collaboration is not recommended. Now, what does that really mean? Well, what we're saying is if your focus is on growth and this person's focus would be totally in the opposite direction, then you can't collaborate together. No matter how well you communicate, no matter how like the learning style is, the difference in values can make a lot of difference in being able to collaborate towards a successful completion. And here's another thing you want to think about while we're talking about this. Let's talk about boundaries. You know, we all have different space needs and boundary needs in our life. Some people don't like you to walk up real close to them when you're talking. They feel like you're too close. Some people don't want to be you to reach out and touch them, no matter if it's in a friendly gesture or not. So we all have different space needs and boundary needs. You know, boundaries are nothing more than limits you place on the behavior of other people around you. That's your boundaries. And the first step is to be aware of people's boundaries and then to use that knowledge to approach them. How? Respectfully. You know, this kind of new behavior often avoids conflict, and it helps to strengthen your relationship in the group and with that individual if you're respecting their boundaries and you can learn to understand. I've seen people that can do all of the first 5 things I told you in an exemplary fashion. And I thought then about having saw throughout the years people that had all of those talents that we've just talked about, and yet they had no sense of self. They had no respect, self-respect. You know, self-respect's a vital and primary building block that supports that formation of that relationship to begin with. You've got to have self-respect, and it's very vital and primary. And by being aware of your own needs and style, you create a healthy foundation, and then relationships are more solid for you. So we've looked at communication in the outward sense. We've looked at silent communication, if you would, which is nothing more than nonverbal communication. We've looked at the difference in learning styles and differing values and boundaries that people set. And now we've talked about getting back to self. Our own self-respect has to be, it's vital and primary to building relationships. You know, the next 4 or 5 things we're going to talk about here are nothing more than variations on cultural differences. And I'm sure each of you would agree that with the information age at hand, that we cross many cultural lines, and that we are able to interact with people of different cultures, different ways of living, different values, different, if you would, ideas of ways to accomplish things. And we do it on a mass scale now, where used to be we were limited to our direct contact in our life and our community. We're now in contact with the world. So what we have to think about then is how the culture of SFI, I guess how I want to say this is this. We want to talk about company culture, and we want to look at ourselves as employees. And we're seasoned employees because most of us understand the basics of SFI and their culture and what their thrust is, unlike those people that walk through the door. Well, if you would allow me to extend this, seasoned employees have come into my life from different companies, and I found that each company has its own unique culture. And that's got to be identified and respected in order to ensure successful integration into SFI. Let's say a guy came from being an MLMer all his life, and he has that mindset of the 1-up, 2-up, or the weak leg and all of this, and pay plans and all of this. And now he comes into SFI and he meets head on, if you would, an online brick and mortar business. To coin it simply, SFI is an online brick and mortar business. It's foundational. It's not predicated upon you get two, I get two, he gets two, and they get two, and we'll all get rich, and the last guy in is going to get nothing. It's predicated upon creating a business that you run for yourself, that you teach others to do the same thing, and it all focuses on one thing: SFI's culture. Triple clicks, ECAs, all the training available. That's the company culture. Then we want to stop and think about, okay, so we understand SFI and we understand culture. Now let's stop and think about something. How difficult do you think it is for a guy in India to comprehend SFI? How difficult do you think it is for a guy in England or Canada or the United States on first encountering that? They have their own culture in their country. And with the global nature of our business, we as business owners often come from different countries, and each of us have a different culture. So in order to successfully integrate all of these cultures, these multicultural differences, these differences have to be taken into account and understood. They have to be articulated by speaking back and forth and communicating. And most of all, the key word that I spoke at the beginning, we need to learn to respect the cultures of other people in other countries as we are promoting our businesses. I guess that those kind of things, first we talk about our company, and now we talk about the world culture. But let us address our family cultures for a minute, and let's think about something. I'm sure all of you would agree that the influences of our backgrounds is great. And often we ignore these differences because they don't belong in the workplace. But nonetheless, they're there. And we're not ever going to get away from them. Our background has a lot to do with that until we can build up that positive stream and that flow by mapping our mind to force out the negative and enter in the positive and accept the cultural differences. But however, stop and think about this. The reality is that people cannot keep who they are out of work. Think about that. If you got a job and you're out somewhere, it's invariably, you'll hear it at the break room or at the water fountain or someplace or going down the road. People talk about their families. That's their life. It's their thrust. So the reality is that people can't keep who they are out of their work environment. So the key here is to recognize when the source of conflict is based on someone's family and personal issues versus a problem within your company or your business. This allows you to choose not to engage in a battle that is based on their family history. Like if you would, for anybody from the United States, you'll know what I'm talking about. The Hatfields and the McCoys. It was the greatest feud of all time and still exists even today. But let's go one step further, and the final step in this particular area that I'm addressing. Let's talk about the individual versus the team. You know, balancing all the individuals that needs with all of the team needs is always an interesting dilemma, if you would. The team may have one focus, and balancing the needs of this individual that might be less financially inclined or less educated versus the overall picture of the team. It's always an interesting dilemma how to make that work together. But remember something, if there is a healthy balance, things will work well. If the healthy balance is not reached, you're always going to have problems. The problems are certain to follow. So take the time to identify and address both individual and team dynamics. And that is key and the core of the balancing act. Business success is directly relating to getting that one thing right, individual versus team, and the core of that is how the individual and the team dynamics can mesh into a finely tuned, focused, communicating, cultural respecting environment that is focused upon forwarding your SFI business. Now, you know, I mentioned a lot about that, and when I was thinking about that, I thought about communities and how they work. I think that we should take a look in brevity at community and what does it mean. You know, we have our community that we live in. Then we have our country, which is a community of all of the people. And then we have our businesses, which interact with other businesses, which is a business community. And let's just think about community for a moment, if you would bear with me. What does community mean? And how does it always come in to play? Well, the dictionary had this to say: a community is a group of people living together in one place. And I thought, whoa, that's a lot of help. So I guess that means we're all in a community. Though I can tell you something, if I were to speak in honesty, it feels like to me sometimes, and I'm sure it feels the same to you, we're all trying to live separately and live by the culture of our individual countries or our community or our upbringing, which tells us day in and day out, if you want something done, do it yourself. If you're a strong individual, you don't never ask for help. And that life is about personal advancement, about money and accomplishments, and that we're to hold on to our hardships and pain, but that we're never to quit striving for personal gain. So many lies deeply ingrained into us. How are we ever going to create a change? Well, I thought about that, and I started with myself. First of all, I'm not ashamed to ask for help. And I started with me. I have to be the change I want to see. I have to ask myself, how would the person I want to become do the things that I'm about to do? So change starts with me. When I thought about that, I become like an infectious contagion. And in all of my relations that could spread across a population and even across the nations, I think about that. And I realized that I had to have a model to work from. I'm talking about our inner self. So what I did was I modeled, and this is me, I modeled my life after the creator or the master of love or whatever you want, the creator that dwells in the heavens above. You know, he brought millions and even billions together over the decades, centuries, even the millenniums. So what else greater could I look towards? What else could be better than for me to follow him? Now we're speaking of me. We're talking about someone that was anointed to proclaim good news unto all mankind, to the poor, to proclaim freedom for all of the prisoners that were trapped in life, that were enslaved, and recovery of sight for the blind when he healed the blind, for healing the lepers, and to set all of the people that were oppressed free. And I say, yeah, that's who I want to be. But let me say something. Unless I engage in my community, unless I get to know my fellow human beings, how can I help to set you free? If I don't interact with you, if I don't set a model for you, if I don't create an environment for you that will lead you into motivating and motivate you into ways that will be beneficial to your dream, then I'm certainly a difference, aren't I? So I wondered, how could I ever hope to do that and set the people I meet free? The first thing I had to think about is putting aside cultural differences, and more so than that, being willing to let go of that foolish pride that we often all have, or being willing to step out of the social norm or social codes that are set for us, and to become unselfish in my ambitions, and to try to just get rid of the old roads and useless traditions. I wanted to blaze a brand new trail with my life. I wanted to write a new tale, a new adventure. So what I did is I introduced a new theme and added a few more characters. And then I dared to dream. I dreamt of how my story could impact those I met, and how meeting them and sharing my story, that they would have an impact upon me. And I thought, maybe, just maybe, it might be better. It might just be, not to say I did it on my own. All this, look, I did it alone. No, maybe I thought about that and I said, well, maybe it would be better to look at it in a different light. We did it together. Not I, but we, us, our, key words. Not I, me, my, we. us our. So that no matter what I was doing, I would always know what I've got. I created friends until the very end. I knew that I could depend upon them at a moment's notice to receive help. I always had people that were saying, Dr. King, how can I help you? Always willing to lend me a hand. So, what need would I have for advancement, for money and accomplishment, if I had all of that? I can find all that I need in the people that I communicate with, that I trust, that I respect. I respect their culture, their way of thinking. I respect their ideas, even if they're different than mine. I look for the possibilities in every discussion to be able to become cohesive, to join together, to unite, to look for the we, the our, the team, and not the me, the I, the my's, the mine. I can find all that I need and everything I seek from life in the relationships with the fellow human beings in this world community that I interact with. I think that's probably what community really means. Being able to interact regardless of culture, race, language, ideas, differences, levels of accomplishment, educational levels, all of those things are what a community truly, and I do mean truly, is. You know, let's talk a moment about leading people and being optimistic about it, trying to lead with optimism, if you would. I heard a guy say the other day, "Are you kidding me? How can I be optimistic? There's nothing to be optimistic about in this world today in our economy." He said, with the constant stream of bad economic news, with the death and mayhem, with the constant news barrage that we go through, it's very easy to get caught up into thinking that nothing positive is happening. So we start to believe that there's little that we can do to improve our circumstances. How many times have you said to somebody around you, or heard somebody say, "Well, there ain't nothing we can do about it. I, what do you want me to do? It don't concern me." Think about that. We start to believe that there's little we can do to improve a circumstance. So what do? We play it safe. We withdraw. We lose our ability to feel concern. And then that leads us into fear about our future. We become especially vigilant for further signs that we're a risk when we become negative. Everything that hits us can be like a conspiracy, or, well, how would I want to say this? It's not all about conspiracy, but everything that we start to view when we start to think that way and we get caught up in that type of thinking just breeds more negative input into our life and further depresses us. And what it does is it dashes our dreams, and it creates a negative environment surrounding us to a point that soon we're looking for things to make it worse. You know, when I talk about leadership, optimistic leadership is not about seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. Of course, I look through some rose-colored glasses because I got a pair that are tinted that way. But I don't see the world that way. You know, this economic downturn that we're seeing worldwide is real. And we need to make business decisions based on that reality. But I can tell you one thing. Once you got a plan of attack, optimism will inspire a sense of hopefulness. And we talked about hope last week. And we know that hopefulness does what? It it inspires confidence in us that we require to take full advantage of the opportunities that are surrounding us that really do exist, as opposed to focusing on all of the outer things and becoming depressed and negative. What it does is when we have a plan of attack up and we become optimistic about it and we say, you know what? I believe this can work if I can enlist Joe and John and Mary and we all work together with the same mindset and we focus on being optimistic and try to just follow the simple basic plan, so to speak, the SFI plan, the basic plan. And we all start to follow that plan of attack. Pretty soon, we begin to sponsor. Pretty soon, we begin to have sales. Pretty good. Soon, we start to see those people that we have sponsored begin to sponsor. And I can't think of anything that's more invigorating than to go to our back end store, our triple click sales report, and see a new sale. Or to get notice of a new CSA or a new PSA. It just inspires you. It gives you a sense of hopefulness that what you're doing, and it builds your confidence. And that's what's required to take full advantage of all the opportunities around you that really do exist. Optimism or pessimism is not about the reality of the situation. Always remember that. It is conscious choice that has a huge impact on your ability to succeed. Now, let me go back over that. Optimism or pessimism is not about the reality of a situation. It's the conscious choices that you make that has the hugest impact on your ability to succeed. And additionally, if we go out and research, I know that research has confirmed it time and time again that those people who are most able to find an optimistic outlook will not only be more successful than a person who's pessimistic or negative. Guess what it does? They live longer, so they get to enjoy that. They're healthier, they're happier because they're optimistic. Stop and think about the most negative person you know and tell me about that person that something that always comes out of their mouth is about woe is me or how bad their health is. If you ever look around you and see all this negativity and the negative people, you'll find that most of those people aren't healthy. Few of them genuinely laugh that good old belly laugh and have that huge smile on their face. They walk around in that down and out doom and gloom outlook with slumped shoulders and ducking around and not being a part of others. And if they are, their interaction is one that pushes people away as opposed to draws them to them. But look around you and find that optimistic person, that one that is living life, loves his family, goes out and does positive things, works in his community, works with his church or his religion, works as a volunteer somewheres, or just simply enjoys life and does those positive things towards his fulfillment of the pursuit of happiness. Let me give you, I always like to do this. I'm going to try, and I think I can do it, to give you at least 10 ways to become more optimistic. And I hope that as I do that, it's going to help you to energize your organization at SFI. So I'm going to try to point it that way. One little drink of coffee, clear that old nasty old throat. I guess the first thing I would say to you is we need to seek positive perspectives and evidence of them. You know, unfortunately, most of what is being reported today has a pessimistic tone. The news, the underlying, what's going on in your community, how we're in a deficit here, or healthcare is hurting, or there was a mass attack and people were killed. So so that's what we're inundated with, and that's inflow. So mostly what's being reported today has a pessimistic tone to us. So to build a more balanced view, I would suggest to you that you need to look for the positive signs that are being reported. And what do I really mean by that? Well, you know, in an economic downturn, pessimists may be more right, but optimists will see more opportunity and actually accomplish more. Now think about that. The pessimists might be right in a time of economic downturn. But yet an optimistic individual will absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, see more opportunity. You know, I think probably a little small example of that would be this. We saw in the United States, we saw all the massive foreclosures of homes. And the pessimists said, well, they're taking people's homes and they can't pay, and the jobs are going abroad, and you can't get a job, and there's no decent wage. And they were probably right. Along comes the optimistic individual that says, you know what? There are a lot of possibilities here. One, to help people. Two, to make money. You see, when things are downhill, the optimist will find a way to capitalize upon the uphill. Because whatever goes up always comes down. But remember something, our lives travel in cycles, up and down, up and down. And we'll cover that in another seminar, and we'll discuss about life cycles and how they affect us. But not right now. Let's talk about practicing the possibility thinking kind of in thought. We've got to practice possibility thinking. You know, we have an amazing ability to construct our inner world, the world in here, and our outlook and how we see it. We can use self-talk to either build ourselves up or to tear ourselves down, because we communicate with us. So what I would say to you is give yourself permission to reframe your thoughts, to focus on the opportunities and not the negative consequences surrounding you. the 90% that we still have rather than the 10% we have lost. Okay? What I'm saying to you there is real simple. We may be in a downturn, but there's a 90% possibility over here of an upturn. And that 10% that we're down, if we focus on it, we're going to keep on going. But if we look for the possibilities in there and do some possibility thinking, and we realign ourselves and we start to think about it, there's 90% over here that's still very good. You think about that in your deepest soulful thought. 90% is still good. We're still alive. The world is still free. We're still getting along. There's no, we can all interact with each other. We're able to come here tonight and share. We're able to be in the same kind of a business that is goal-oriented for each of us on an individual basis, on a team environment basis. 90% of what's surrounding all of us tonight is positive. And yet I see every day people that write me emails or chat with me or just contact me and say something negative. They look at the negative aspect of it. And I go to myself, well, this guy's focusing on the 10%. Let me see if I can find 90% of the good, and hopefully he'll grab 20% of that. And I know if he gets 20% of the good, 10% of it's wasted, and that other 10% is possibility thinking. So when you talk to somebody and they're negative, what I'm trying to say to you is if they get negative, you be creative and be positive. And give them positive possibilities for doing what? A solution to the problems that they are encountering. You see, that negative thought is a problem to them. So they want everybody to see their problem. They want everybody to know their problem. So while they're so entranced and fulfilled with that problem, they can't focus on the positive. So what you need to do is become creative and give them the possibilities in that conversation by saying, well, what if you did this? Or what if you looked at it that way? Or have you ever thought of it this way? Or is it possible? Understand? Is it possible that if we both did this together, that I could learn from you and you'll learn from me? And I would really like to do that so we can build a real strong team and a relationship. The whole focus of our business, don't forget, is building relationships, communicating across every line of culture in a bad economy, which thrust us into a market arena that all of us didn't know anything about to begin with, found everything there for the taking, and the only thing I could truthfully say that I felt was lacking in SFI was live, personal interaction. And here I am, live, personal, and interacting with you. I want you to feel that way too. I want you to feel alive. I want you to feel positive and be a possibility thinker. I want you to want to interact with others. And even if they're negative, I want you to try to respect their differences and learn to look at their ways, to listen not only to what they say, but to look at it in the what they didn't say, reading between the lines. And then I want you to turn around and I want you to build a relationship based upon those differences by injecting possibility thinking, by creating an optimistic outlook from your side without overdoing it, okay? And then I'm going to tell you how to make that happen. You have to build in you confidence. But in other people, you have to build a compelling vision that inspires them. I hope that I measure up to that. I want to inspire you. I want to create a compelling vision for you that will inspire you to let go of the negative, become a possibility thinker. And the time to develop a deep sense of mission and purpose, you have to take that time to develop a deep sense of mission and purpose, to get really clear about what you want for your organization, for yourself, and the unique value you can provide to it. And I heard uh, a gentleman named Peter Drucker said, I want to make sure how I say this because it was very important what he said. He said that uh, Lyle is, pardon me, folks. Lyle was Skyping me. I forgot to turn my Skype off. Okay. Peter Drucker said the best way to predict the future is to create it. I thought that was phenomenal. The best way to create the future or to predict it is to create it. So if we keep a positive perspective, and and we are the evidence of that, and if we learn to practice possibility thinking, and we build a compelling vision for those that we interact with that inspires them, then we're left to do something to keep us motivated. And my first thing that I would tell you is you need to surround yourself with positive people, like you came here tonight looking for positivity. And I hope that that's what you're really are getting. You know, optimism is a learned habit, and it's one that we're not born with. It's a learned habit. But I'll tell you something about optimism. It's contagious. Seek out people who have a positive outlet. Look, and you're only as good as the company you keep. I've told you that before. If you surround yourself with negativity, you're getting nothing but negative input. And if you surround yourself with positive people, then what's going to happen? You're going to have a greater tendency to be positive, have positive inflow, it's positive outflow. So for you, you have to expand your support network. You know, don't be afraid to interact with a positive team member. Some people, and I'll tell you what this really refers to, is you have to expand your support network. And excuse me just a minute, folks. Okay, I won't have to worry about that now. Uh, where was it? Okay, in surrounding yourself with positive people, you're going to learn optimism. and it becomes contagious. So you have to seek out people with a positive outlook, and you're really only as good as the company you keep. Now, in order to do that, you have to expand your support network. And a lot of people consider having a mentor or a business coach to help them as they work through that process. I hope I'm your business coach. I hope I'm your part of your support network. But I hope I'm not the only thing that is part of your support network. I hope your sponsor's working with you. I hope you're working with your people to be an awesome sponsor. And something else I thought about was we all need to be aware of, if you would, the shadow that we cast to our downline or our people in our organization. Uh, You know, a leader, everything you do as one impacts those people around you. So your mood and your behaviors are watched and interpreted and scrutinized by everyone around you. So if you're a good role model and you're good at maintaining your composure in bad situations, and you always have a positive attitude that's authentic, then you are going to cast a shadow to your organization of a person that they want to emulate, that they want to be like. And in order to do that and to display those characteristics, the next thing I would tell you is you've got to have open dialogue. You know, being positive and open does what? If you're negative and withdrawn, what occurs? People draw back from you. But if you're positive and open, what's that do? It draws people towards you. It's a magnet. It magnetizes. So stay focused on understanding and listening. And I can't express any more listening because it's especially important with others who don't feel so optimistic. Be willing to listen and be understanding, because optimism or pessimism is not about the reality of the situation, is it? You need to remain open to fully understand all of your possibilities, all of your alternative perspectives that you encounter, and be able to lead people to a more positive future. And that's what a good leader does. Now let's talk about encouraging people to be health conscious. Now, we're not doctors, we're not none of that, but optimists are resilient and they're able to handle stress better and in most cases enjoy better health. And resilience builds a mental toughness and an ability to bounce back from our setbacks or our experiences that don't turn out as favorably as we had hoped. So when we build resilience, pardon me, through keeping a healthy mind and a healthy body, through exercise, through input into our system, those necessary elements to make us be resilient and strong, not only of body, but of mind and of spirit, then it creates the ability in those tough times to be able to come back from them quicker than we would have if we wouldn't have been in that position. And I guess that we need to build in ourselves, one of the key elements we need to truly build is personal mastery of ourself. And if I were to tell you, I could take a long time on that, on mastering self, but we've got to build personal mastery as well as keeping our health and our resilience built. You know, this begins with an honest assessment of your capabilities and then a lifelong commitment to your professional development and your personal development. Mastery brings confidence as well. And as we master these things and increase our knowledge, it increases our capacity to succeed. And when it increases our capacity to succeed, what's that roll into? It creates more optimism, more reason for it, more ability to push away pessimistic ideas and become more optimistic as we are creating. But there's something that I cannot stress any stronger than personal mastery. And that is this thing. You have to believe in the capabilities of your team and the organization that you represent. The organization being Strong Future International, and your team, the people who are looking to you to lead them, that you are bringing in and introducing to the business. It's more important, if you would, and equally goes hand in hand with personal mastery. Believe in the capabilities of your team and organization. Believe in yourself. If you can master yourself, and I know I said in the last seminar that the hardest part of the body to control was the tongue. If you can learn to hold the tongue, take 3 seconds, be optimistic, do a creative thought process in that period of time, and think about the possibilities of the situation before you. Then align your team with that, along with the focus of the mission at SFI. Then it's one of the most powerful gifts you can give to any of your people. You know, to believe in their own potential, to create confidence in them that they can succeed. It's a powerful gift when they feel like you believe in their capabilities. And suddenly they start to become capable of accomplishing so much more. You know, maybe they don't interact with you right now. But if you were creating and asking advice, a man once told me, never give an answer, always ask a question. And it took me a long time to understand that because I was an answer man. But then I realized exactly what he meant. You don't build people up knowing everything and telling them everything. But you do build people up when you allow them to show you their capabilities by asking a question. You see, people want to talk about themselves. They want you to know that they have some skills. They want you to see and believe in their capabilities. And people don't care how much you know, and never will until they know how much you care about them. Remember that statement. It's not my own original, but it's a very valid and true statement. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The last thing that I would offer you, and there are many I could, is another element that is very important is to stay focused, create a focus, and track your accomplishments. One of the best things that's happened to SFI most recently was your goals list, where you go each day and you say what your goal tasks are to get a VersaPoint. And you review that and you see the little markers edging across towards whatever goal you set. Well, as you see those bars start to fulfill themselves, and if you set realistic goals, then you're going to see those bars start to slide. And as they start to fill up, think about the confidence it creates in you. If you set genuine goals that were reasonable, then you're going to see as they fill up how they turn to you did it, you did it, you did it. And what does that do? It creates confidence. It instills in you that you can succeed. It's a visual help that, hey, you know what? I did that. I accomplished that. So by staying focused and tracking your accomplishments, when there's a lot of information and distractions around you, because there's auctions and there's people that are chit-chatting and there's this going on and that going on and this for sale and that for sale. And there's a lot going on at SFI. There's the forum and Ask SC and the different things that are written and in the tabs and reviewing all of that information. So when there's a lot of information and distractions, it's important that you keep your eyes focused on what? The road ahead. On the things that you can do and control. You see, we oftentimes lose our focus. We start thinking about all the things that other people are talking about, and we forget to keep our eyes on the road ahead and those things that we're capable of doing, can do, and we can control towards reaching our goals. Celebrate your victories along the way. How many times have you went out and done something and it turned out great and you let it pass by without celebrating? I learned from one of my mentors this. You have to celebrate the smallest of victories. You have to reward you first. Because by rewarding yourself, you feel better inside and you build your confidence and you build your strength. A renewal, if you would, by paying yourself first. I mean, truthfully, think about that. You have to celebrate those small victories along the way. And knowing that, although it may be just short-lived, and that it may be a long road ahead, if you celebrate those victories, you'll absolutely reach your destination in the end of success, fulfillment of your dream, whether it's to retire, to be wealthy, whatever. And no matter what you do, pay yourself first. Reward yourself. You get a little check from SFI, reward yourself. You deserve it. You earned it, and it will do thousands of tons of good for you because it gives you a sense of accomplishment. So let's kind of just run back over what I've said to you. And I think I can probably put it all back together. We have to have positive perspectives. And the way we do things has to evidence those positive perspectives. We need to always practice possibility thinking in the sense that there are many possibilities, and that 90% of the time there are possibilities that we're not looking at because we're too focused on the 10% of the impossibilities that we face. We need to build ourselves as a compelling vision to others that will inspire them, that will help them want to grow. And we need to always focus on surrounding ourselves with positive people and be aware of how we present ourselves to our organization, to the company, to our teammates, to our A2A friends, to those people that will view us in whatever way. If you would, be aware of the shadow that you're casting. Always encourage your team to be open and honest with you, and always be open and honest with them so that you build respect for each other and you build trust. Take care of yourself and build that resilience for those times that you're in a hard push and things are on a downhill, so that you stay strong mentally and are able to climb uphill. Work on building your personal mastery skills, your knowledge, your positive motivations, be honest with yourself when you assess your actual capabilities, and realize that doing that and your personal mastery becomes a lifelong commitment and goes hand in hand with your professional development. I believe that as we do that, you need to always focus on the capabilities and believe in the capabilities of others that you surround yourself with. Believe in the capabilities of your own teammates, of SFI. If you can't truthfully say to yourself today, I believe where SFI is going, I'm grateful for the opportunity that they presented me with, and I want to be a leader in the growth of SFI because I believe in that concept, and I want to teach a team of people that I enlist in my organization that same mission. And if you can't focus on that and commit to it 100%, you might as well leave SFI. I'm sorry to say that. If you can't believe that you've got a hold of the best part of your dream, and that is what's presented before you in SFI, chances are that you're going to create a whole team of non-believers if you're not totally 100% committed to that dream and that belief. If you have any doubt in you, build your mastery, build your resilience, go to positive people that you know are doing things, surround yourself with them, ask them questions, ask them in your worst moment, offer it up as a question and say, how would you do something like that? What do you think I might ought to do? People want to help you. Believe in the capabilities of others. And above all, stay focused. And when you have those small accomplishments, reward yourself. I think that pretty well sums up leading and being an optimistic leader, don't you? So we've talked about personalities tonight. We've talked about how it interacts with our business. We've talked about community and what it really means, both on the SFI level, in the world, in our personal lives. We've talked about how to be optimistic in those times of negativity and how to lead others. And we've talked about business relationships and why that you can have the best products and the business that you're with has the best business practices. And that if you don't build strong relationships, that your ability to succeed in the marketplace will be severely limited. We've talked about creating a map in our mind and becoming whole mind thinkers as opposed to limiting ourselves. And we've also talked about how to think successful. So I guess in closing, what I would like to say to you is let's talk a moment about leadership excellence. You know, leaders need one key ingredient. And what is that? Well, leaders need people. You know, I don't care how dynamic a person you are. If I strand you alone on an island, you can't be a leader. There's no one to lead. So people are very important to you as a leader because as a leader, people make it possible for you to shape ideas, to find solutions, and work towards goals. Now, dynamic leaders will always work on interpersonal skills so they can get along with and motivate and encourage a variety of types of people. A dynamic leader always is one that works on his interpersonal skills to be able to meet and greet anybody and never meet a stranger. But there's something you need to think about. Leaders can't be best friends with everyone. There may even be people in your team or in your group that you don't especially like. But if you're a dynamic leader, you have to learn to set aside those feelings for the good of the whole team and for so that you can develop positive relationships around the whole of the environment. Now, you've got to get to know members of what makes them tick. And I took a course one time in listening. You would be amazed at what you don't hear. You may think you listen, but if you think I'm kidding, look on the internet for a listening course and take a look at it, some of the samples, and think about what you just don't hear there or that you're ignoring, because we become calloused. And after a while, we stop listening, though we hear. We hear, but we don't listen. So a dynamic leader will always be a person that can listen to everyone's ideas with an open mind. And more so, a courteous ear. Now, I said that specific. A courteous meaning what? To be courteous to that individual regardless of what they have to say. A courteous ear. I hear what they're saying. Listen. A dynamic leader will always be willing to compromise. I don't mean your beliefs. I mean to look for a way of to look for a solution for a problem. You see, there's a problem and there's a solution. And in between that, it's going to take a little compromise to make them come together in a smooth fashion so that they just mesh. So dynamic leaders have to always be willing to compromise. But they've always got to offer honest and let's say it this way. How do I want to really say this? Always offer in private honest, constructive criticism. And always give honest and generous encouragement and praise in public. Now, let me go back and redo that. If you're going to have constructive criticism as you're coaching your team, always be honest, always have a courteous ear, and always approach it with an open mind, but always do it in private. And always be quick and honest to offer generous encouragement, to encourage somebody that they can do something, that you know that you believe in them. And when they go out and make the attempt, if it's not exactly the best it could have been, praise them anyway. Praise them before the public. Congratulate them like you see people do in the streams and stuff. Congratulations on making team leader. Congratulations on reaching EA. Congratulations on your win in the Daily Grand. Congratulations on your price bender win. All these little things are honest and they offer encouragement and they're done publicly and it's praise. But never go and offer anything negative to an individual unless you do that in private, because it's humiliating, it's adverse to creating a team network. And I think probably something I should say at this point is you have to be consistent. But above all else, you have to be fair. So being fair and consistent, offering generous praise in public that's honest on the smallest of accomplishments creates what? Trust, respect, confidence. It inspires, and it's the tools of a dynamic leader. And I'm going to say to you one more time what a dynamic leader does that a mediocre leader doesn't. They bite their tongue and they think before they speak. How many times have you ever heard one of your leaders listen to everything you have to say, and there's a pause before they speak? They're thinking about how to do the things and how the person they are becoming or want to become would do the things they're about to say to you. So dynamic leaders always think before they speak. They don't just blurt out and maybe create harm where they may not have understood everything. They're always fair and consistent. They're always generous with praise in public, and they're always honest and constructive in their criticism in private. And they're always willing to compromise. You know, as we look towards leadership excellence and how we forge relationships at work, I would have to say that the dynamic leader knows that it is other people who give them their leadership power. You know, getting along with others and helping them get along with each other is vital to leadership ability in organizations, in families, in careers, in communities, in teams. It's important to forge working relationships with a variety of people, even ones you might not like very well. Dynamic leaders build relationships that work by giving others credit for their suggestions, addressing problems between people, being encouraging and praising in public, always criticizing in private, never openly and outward so it creates a weakness, by asking for opinions instead of always having the answer, asking that question as opposed to answering it, by being quick to say, I noticed that you made progress, and that's awesome. Informing members, and then informing the other members of the team about that person's progress, no matter how small. And there's one thing that you've got to always keep in mind as a dynamic leader, and I've seen it break organizations apart. And it may seem the simplest thing in the world, but it only takes once. Never, ever, under any circumstance, play favorites. Everybody's on an equal playing field, always with you when you're a leader. Don't play favorites. Because you are, as a dynamic leader, only as good as the weakest link in your team. And if you show those who are more capable than that weakest link and show favoritism to them, you're going to kill the weakest link and those right above it. You're going to kill their enthusiasm. You're going to kill their want to attitude. You're going to kill their desire to follow you. So remember, never play favorites. And always remember something else. Your attitude shapes your relationships. Strong leadership relationships are not built upon manipulative strategies to advance your power. Haven't you ever seen those leaders that are power hungry and they manipulate their team to build, and they call themselves strong leaders just to advance their power? They start with a genuine interest and commitment to members. You've got to do that. Dynamic leaders realize that people are their greatest resource. They deserve and they require care, will always. They deserve and they require understanding, respect, truth, encouragement, and one last thing. Something that your upline leader, Bing Abaldo, said the other day that was very important. It isn't about the money, David. It's about loyalty. Loyalty from you. Those people deserve and require your care, your understanding, your encouragement, respect, truthfulness, and loyalty. And in return, when you as a dynamic leader can do that, when you start to forge those relationships built upon those principles of giving others credit for their suggestions, even if it's the smallest of suggestion, look for a way to give them some credit. By addressing the problems between two people when they have differences and looking for a positive outcome. By looking for ways to encourage them and praise them before their peers or in public. By never criticizing them in public, but rather coaching them and being honest with them in your critique in private. Always asking them for an opinion. Ask opinions, ask questions, don't give answers. And when I say that, I don't mean that in the purest sense. If a person asks you a question that has a very straightforward answer, just simple answer, yes or no, you can answer that yes or no. But be a possibility thinker. Use the tools that you have and the gifts that you are within you. Above all, spread the word about the members as they progress to your team to encourage and inspire the rest of the team that you're going to do the same. Always remember never to play favorites and never manipulate the members of your teams to advance your own well-being or your power, or you will lose in that quick snap of a finger all of the credibility, all of the respect that you've worked to build with everyone around you. Always express a genuine interest and a commitment that you're there for them to help them and mean it. And realize that those people are your greatest resource. Those people you put in your team are your greatest resource. And as their leader, they deserve your care, your understanding, your encouragement, and respect. Fragile, handle with care. I'm Dr. David King. Thank you for coming tonight, folks. I hope I've given you a lot to think about. And don't leave your seats. Give me just 1 second to clear